over 18 lenses. Some are anamorphic, some are spherical, some are vintage. And to be honest, the question I get asked the most from my friends or just from people in general is, why don't you just stick with one type of lens that you like? Why do you have to own so many different lenses, even though maybe I have the same, I have so many 40 millimeters or 35 millimeters. Why do I need so many? Why do you need anamorphic if most of the content today is shot for vertical anyways? Why would you shoot with cine lenses if photography lenses are pretty much the same and they have autofocus? This is what today's video is about. I want to answer this question. We're going to shoot sunset and sunrise, and I'm just generally going to go through why do I pick a specific lens for a specific job and why do I own so many lenses. That's all. So there's not right or wrong when choosing a lens to film with. To be honest, most Hollywood directors and just filmmakers in general spend so many months to even pick a lens to shoot. The reason is because you can choose something contemporary, spherical, anamorphic, vintage. There is so many ways to transmit a feeling during a movie or whatever thing you're shooting, and you want to be very intentional. For example, for myself, I love this diverse, different look. And this is why I'm shooting most of my talking sequence right now with an anamorphic lens, which is very impractical, but it works for me. Take this scene, for example. Do I need an anamorphic lens to actually shoot a talking sequence? I don't. But to come across in a bit of a different way from everyone else, I want to distinguish myself even using different glass. Yes, I could shoot this on a 24-70, but then it just looks like any other YouTube video. Using specific glass throughout my YouTube videos, I feel like it allows me to come across a little bit different and hopefully transmit you something differently within my videos. So it comes down to really like, what are you shooting? So obviously for something like this, like a passion project, which is YouTube videos for me, it's, I can do whatever I want. If I want to shoot anamorphic, I can shoot anamorphic. If I want to shoot with a vintage lens, I can shoot with a vintage lens. If I want to put like a big setup just to allow my vintage lenses to autofocus on me using a DJI Focus Pro, is it overkill? It is. But who cares? It's a passion project. But when it comes to client work, then you have to really be specific with it. I had client work in the past where I specifically chose a specific type of spherical cine lens because I wanted this dreamy, super shallow look. And then there's clients that I just use my 24-70 because it's a very specific run and gun scenario where I just know that it's going to be so much easier, and they're also not looking for anything like a specific like old and vintage and different look. They just want the shot and they want the scene and they want the story. They're not looking for the characters specifically. Are you seeing this behind me? This is one of my all-time favorite spots in Bali. But honestly, this might be the time that I actually got it the best. There's a bunch of dogs shouting behind me, so I hope you can hear me. Anyways, I'm shooting on anamorphic right now, and the main problem with shooting anamorphic is that you want to be shooting horizontal because of the squeeze factor. Yes, you can shoot vertical, and I might actually make a video about anamorphic vertical because it's actually a very interesting look. But honestly, most of the time you will want to shoot horizontal because the look the anamorphic gives you horizontal, it's just something else. And obviously, if you're shooting for clients that want social media content, it's very hard to shoot with an anamorphic lens and then crop horizontal and vertical just because of all of the, the factor, the squeeze factor. So you want to be shooting spherical if you're 100% shooting for client, for social media, and horizontal. With that said, depending on your camera, if you have a camera that shoots open gate, you can actually crop so much more out of your image. So anamorphic will look better, and even spherical, especially if you're able to shoot 3:2 format, you will get almost like a square image, which is just so much easier to frame for both social media, vertical and horizontal. With that said, I'm gonna move around a bit because there's a lady coming that looks super cool, and yeah, we'll get moving. And this is one of my favorite reasons why I love shooting YouTube videos, and I love to make these my main source of income, because I can literally go out in the morning and shoot with an anamorphic lens, shoot with a vintage lens. So you just gotta ask yourself, what kind of work are you shooting? What kind of client are you shooting for? What kind of content? Where is the content going for? You gotta ask these questions, and then you can find out if you need a vintage lens, if you need an anamorphic lens, if you need a spherical lens, because yeah, in the end, this is what it's all about. It's not what you like, it's what the work is for. You know, I'm never gonna shoot anamorphic if I'm shooting for a client that exclusively need reels, for example. You know, you gotta just be honest with yourself, put your pride, your ego, and what you like aside, and just prioritize the work. Unless you're doing stuff for YouTube, then you can do whatever you want. Honestly, to end this off, the most important thing is that you go out there and you shoot whatever you want to shoot. And those clients that you really like, they will come to you. And this will allow you to use whatever lens you like, an anamorphic lens, a vintage lens, or a spherical lens. With that said, thanks so much for sticking around until here, and I'll see you guys next week.
Nice.